which gives me even more distance from the negative outcome that this thing could have over me and that I could be professing over myself constantly. Listen, you guys, this is going to be a quick one, but I think it's going to help somebody because it was something that I realized many years ago, and it began my journey to get out from under the diagnosis of depression. So recently this week, one of my beautiful followers, who is a consistent commenter on my, hi Carla, on my social media platforms, made a comment on one of my Instagram posts, and in it she mentioned that I help her so much because she is suffering from depression. But for some reason, I just could not get this particular comment out of my head. So I finally was obedient and I went back to that post and I clicked on her name and I proceeded to message her, just Glamazini, all up in her inbox, unsolicited. Word choice is important. Word choice is important. When you are dealing with depression, diagnosed or not, there are a lot of things that can feel like they are not in your control. And there are probably things that are not instantly brought to your awareness as being in your control. Did you like how I said that? You may not be instantly aware that those things are in your control. However, as a person who was diagnosed with major depressive disorder 20 years ago, and who can say right now that I do not feel like I am depression is not in the driver's seat. I would never say that depression is gone because I'm wise enough to understand that there are components that can always bring it back, but depression is not leading me anymore. There were steps that I had to take in my actions and in my thoughts to free myself from the prison of depression. And some of those steps, most of those steps to the depressed mind are not obvious, and they feel like they are out of your control. So let me give you one thing that you can do today, that you can change today, that will help you. And that is change the words that you use to describe your depression. I wanted her to consider not saying that she was suffering from depression. I used to say that because that's how society tells you to vocalize your experience. Something very similar I've done with my son. You guys know that my son has special needs. He was born with spina bifida. He cannot walk, and so therefore he gets around by use of a wheelchair. People say that people are confined to a wheelchair. I never say that, because confined is what you use when somebody's imprisoned, when they're shackled to. And to me, my son's wheelchair actually frees him, because without his wheelchair, he would not be able to get around. And so nothing about that is confining. And I am highly aware of the importance of word choice. So consider not just starting by not saying that you are suffering with depression or any negative thing with depression or with anxiety. An easy one, and I always suggest this to people, and this is where I started. I switched from saying that I was struggling with depression and I was suffering from depression to saying I was living with depression. It was that simple. I taught myself to stop saying that I was struggling all the time and to take the power back in just that little one word and change it to living with. And honestly, you guys, if you hear me say it right now, that was the first step. You know what I say now? Not just with my depression, but also with my son's stuff. I say I was diagnosed with depression, which gives me even more distance from the negative outcome that this thing could have over me and that I could be professing over myself constantly. And you guys, I'm not saying that this cures all, but I'm saying it's the beginning to unlocking a freedom when you realize that you do have some power in some of the choices. And one of those choices is how you vocalize your experience. Just because the world has taught you to say you're struggling, you're crippled with, you're suffering from, does not mean that you have to own that. Depression and you are two separate entities. Depression is actually just your diagnosis. That's all that is. And just like somebody has cancer or a headache even, or they broke their leg, that you are a separate entity and you have power over that thing. Also, don't forget about Shine. I have to always remind you guys, I'm opening up Shine group coaching in the next week or two. It might not be next week because I am starting school, so it might be the week after that. So get on the wait list now if you are interested in getting on Shine at the current price. People who are on the wait list are going to be availed to the current price. So I will put a link to it in the information box if you are interested in my group coaching program, and you guys create an incredible day.